Greetings, fellow vampire enthusiast. Today, we're sinking our teeth into the topic of vampires. That's right, those blood-sucking creatures of the night that make garlic farmers everywhere rejoice. Make sure to give this video a like, hit the subscribe button, and finally, don't forget to hit the notification bell. Now, let's get ready to sink our fangs into the world of vampires. So grab your wooden stakes and garlic, because we're about to take a bite out of this topic. The appearance of vampires has varied throughout history and across different cultures, but some common traits are often associated with these legendary creatures. One of the most notable physical features of vampires is their pale complexion. This is often attributed to their aversion to sunlight, which causes their skin to become paler and more translucent. They also tend to have sharp and defined facial features, such as prominent cheekbones and a chiseled jawline. Vampires are typically depicted with fangs that are used to puncture the skin of their victims and suck their blood. These fangs are usually located at the front of the mouth, either as elongated canines or as retractable teeth. In terms of their physique, vampires are often portrayed as tall, lean, and agile, with a seductive and alluring presence that can mesmerize their prey. They may have long, slender fingers that are perfect for gripping and grasping, as well as enhanced senses like acute hearing and night vision. Vampires are also known for their fashion sense, often dressed in elegant and sophisticated attire that reflects their age and wealth. They may wear dark, flowing robes or suits that emphasize their refined taste and sensuality. Overall, vampires are often depicted as strikingly beautiful or handsome, with a dangerous and seductive aura that draws in their victims. However, their physical appearance can also be influenced by the specific cultural and literary traditions in which they are portrayed, and may vary from one interpretation to another. Vampires have been around for centuries, haunting imaginations with their bloodthirsty nature and seductive charm. From the earliest folk tales to the latest blockbuster movies, these creatures of the night have captivated our hearts and minds. Let's take a journey through the history of vampires, from their earliest origins to their modern-day incarnation as sexy fictional characters. The concept of vampirism can be traced back to ancient cultures, where stories of blood-drinking demons and undead creatures were common. In Mesopotamia, the demon Lilitu was believed to drink the blood of babies and young children, while in ancient Greece, the Empusa was a female demon who seduced men and drank their blood. In Egypt, the goddess Sekhmet was often depicted with blood-red eyes and a thirst for blood, while the Babylonian goddess Tiamat was said to drink the blood of her enemies. In India, the Vetala was a demon who inhabited the bodies of the dead and drank the blood of the living. These early myths and legends laid the groundwork for the concept of vampires, which would later be developed and refined in European folklore. In medieval Europe, the fear of the dead was a common theme in folklore and superstition. The belief in corpse reanimation was widespread, and many people believed that the dead could rise from their graves and wreak havoc on the living. This fear was fueled by outbreaks of disease, such as the Black Death, which killed millions of people in the 14th century. The disease was often accompanied by symptoms such as pale skin, coughing up blood, and rapid heartbeat, which were seen as signs of vampirism. To prevent the dead from rising, people would take various measures, such as burying the bodies face down, decapitating the corpse, or even staking it through the heart. These practices were later incorporated into vampire mythology, along with other popular beliefs, such as the aversion to garlic and the need for a stake through the heart to kill a vampire. The modern concept of the vampire as we know it today emerged in the 18th and 19th centuries, thanks to the influence of Gothic horror literature. The works of authors such as John Polidori, Bram Stoker, and Sheridan Le Fanu popularized the idea of the vampire as a seductive, aristocratic figure who preyed on innocent victims. Dracula, published by Bram Stoker in 1897, is perhaps the most famous vampire novel of all time. The book introduced the character of Count Dracula, a Transylvanian nobleman who travels to England to spread his curse of vampirism. Dracula was an instant success and spawned countless adaptations and imitations, cementing the vampire as a staple of popular culture. In the 20th and 21st centuries, vampires have undergone a transformation from bloodthirsty monsters to sexy, romantic heroes. This change can be attributed to the rise of paranormal romance novels, which blend elements of horror and romance to create a new subgenre of fiction. These stories feature vampires as complex, multi-dimensional characters who struggle with their thirst for blood and their relationships with mortals. In recent years, vampires have also made a comeback in film and television, with franchises such as Underworld, Blade, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe featuring vampires as major characters. These adaptations often portray vampires as powerful and seductive beings who possess superhuman strength, speed, and agility. Despite their current status as sexy, fictional characters, the fear of vampires still persists in some cultures. In Romania, for example, the legend of Vlad the Impaler, also known as Dracula, is still a popular tourist attraction, and many people believe in the existence of strigoi, a type of vampire from Romanian folklore. In conclusion, vampires have come a long way since their origins as blood-drinking demons and undead creatures. According to vampire lore, vampires are often depicted as being sensitive to sunlight. In many stories and legends, sunlight is said to be harmful or even fatal to vampires, causing them to burst into flames or turn to ash upon exposure. In some depictions, vampires are able to move about freely during the day but are weakened by sunlight and become vulnerable to attack. In others, vampires are only able to venture out at night and must avoid sunlight at all costs. The idea of vampires being sensitive to sunlight is thought to have originated from older beliefs about the dead and undead. In many cultures, sunlight was considered to have purifying properties, and the dead were often buried in places that received ample sunlight to help ward off evil spirits. Garlic has long been associated with warding off vampires in popular culture, and many vampire stories and legends feature garlic as a means of protection against these bloodthirsty creatures. The origins of this belief are not entirely clear, but one theory suggests that it may have been based on the belief that strong-smelling substances, such as garlic, could ward off evil spirits and demons. Another theory suggests that the association between garlic and vampires may have been influenced by the fact that garlic was used to treat a variety of ailments, including infectious diseases like tuberculosis and cholera, which were often associated with death and decay. In many vampire stories and legends, holy symbols such as crucifixes, holy water, and garlic are often used as a means of repelling or even destroying vampires. This idea likely stems from the belief that vampires are demonic or supernatural creatures who are vulnerable to divine power. One of the most well-known examples of a holy symbol being used against vampires is the crucifix. In many vampire stories, holding up a crucifix causes the vampire to recoil in fear or burn in agony. This is often explained as a result of the vampire's evil nature and the power of the symbol of Christ's sacrifice. Holy water is another common weapon against vampires. In some stories, vampires are unable to cross running water, which may be a reference to the biblical story of the parting of the Red Sea. Holy water, which is water that has been blessed by a priest, is said to be particularly effective against vampires, often causing them to burn or dissolve upon contact. Stakes have been a popular weapon against vampires in many stories and legends. The idea of using a stake to kill a vampire is often associated with the belief that vampires must be physically destroyed in order to be defeated. In many vampire stories, a wooden stake is the preferred weapon for killing vampires. The stake is usually driven into the vampire's heart, and the act of piercing the heart is said to release the vampire's spirit and send it to the afterlife. The use of stakes to kill vampires may have originated from ancient burial practices in which corpses were sometimes impaled with wooden stakes to prevent them from rising from the grave. This practice may have been influenced by the belief in revenants, or undead creatures who were believed to be capable of leaving their graves and causing harm to the living. Silver is another material that is often associated with vampires in various stories and legends. Silver is believed to be capable of harming or even killing vampires, often in a similar manner to sunlight or wooden stakes. The use of silver against vampires may have originated from the belief that silver is a pure metal that is associated with spiritual energy and protection. In many cultures, silver has been used in religious rituals and ceremonies as a symbol of purity and divine power. In some vampire stories, silver is said to be capable of burning vampires, causing them pain or even killing them. Silver bullets, for example, are a popular weapon against vampires in many modern vampire tales. It is often explained that the purity and spiritual power of silver makes it an effective weapon against the impure and evil nature of vampires. Whether you prefer your vampires as terrifying monsters or romantic heroes, one thing is for sure: they are not going away anytime soon. So, be sure to keep a steak and garlic handy. Thanks for tuning in to this fantastic video about vampires. We hope you enjoyed learning about these bloodthirsty creatures and maybe even got a little spooked along the way. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to join the community and stay up to date on all our latest content.